Caspian looked outside from the deepest part of the royal palace, the Holy King's chambers. His coronation would be in a few days. Therefore, he had come to this empty room, including the break room beside this one, to calm his thoughts. The first person who would complain, and who would not mind her words, was Remedios. She was currently meditating in her home. No, it would not be right to say she was meditating. Rather, she was gathering her strength at home. That was because he intended to have her find any Demiurges that were still hiding within the Holy Kingdom, and root them out. That said, he had still moved to the Holy King's room before the coronation had finished. This was a very good reason for Caspian's enemies to attack him. He had insisted on doing so, even though he knew that because the power struggles had already begun. The aim was to establish the facts before the anti-Caspian nobles could say anything. Given that Caspian did not quite understand noble society, the ability to tell friend from foe was quite convenient. That too was part of the plan. I'm sure some of the nobles must be unhappy by how I took the throne without making arrangements with the other nobles. That's particularly true for the southerners, the ones which he did not oppress. In that case, what will the northerners I fought with think if I listened to them? They would surely be unhappy, and become a major divisive factor. That way, the plan to divide the country in two will be complete. Caspian's self-directed mutterings received an answer. It was a gentle voice that seemed to seep into the heart. It belonged to the entity which was Caspian's superior. Caspian immediately turned and knelt to the speaker. He bowed, and then raised his head. I bid you welcome, Demiurge Sama. He was not wearing his mask, and he had not changed his appearance before showing up. In other words, he was certain that this place was safe. I am here in order to move items back to Nazark. Are there any problems? None at all. Everything has gone as you have planned, Demiurge Sama. Caspian smiled, and Demiurge returned it. Well, there were some things which were beyond my expectations. The first phase of the plan has concluded without any problems, thanks to Ain Sama's actions. I look forward to your good performance in the future. Caspian's head was bowed, but he knew those words were not true. Demiurge expected nothing of him. However, if he was about to jump the rails which had been laid for him, he would immediately jump in to correct the plan and keep it on track. He ought to have prepared several plans for revealing Caspian's true identity. His instructions had included several items which made him wonder why he had to do them. Those must have been intended to prepare for that moment. The first phase of the plan was to bring the Abelian Hills and the Demiurges under the sway of the Sorcerer's Kingdom. Before that, they would exterminate the troublesome species, and then plant the seeds of a conflict between the northern and southern Holy Kingdom. After that, Caspian would be in charge of the second phase, which was to bring north and south into opposition, and then conflict. The final third phase would be to have the Sorcerer's Kingdom step in to take over everything. I have a question regarding the item needed for that, which would be my corpse. Will you keep it here? There is no need for that. It has already been brought to Nazark. When it is necessary for the plan, it can be brought here. The true Caspian's body was wrapped in an item known as a Shroud of Sleep, and it had apparently been brought to Nazark. This magic item could arrest the decay of a corpse. He had been neatly killed with instant death magic upon capture, and his body had been preserved before rigor mortis could set in. If one touched it, one could still feel traces of his body heat. With that corpse, one would simply assume he had died all of a sudden. Allow me to verify something. Do you understand what you ought to do, as Holy King? Yes. In order to make this a country worthy of Ain Sama, I must make it prosperous. Just so. However, you must keep the people unhappy. After all, dissatisfaction is the best spice to welcome a new king. Yes, Caspian replied. Then he asked Demiurge about a problem that had not been described in his plan. Speaking of which, what should we do about that girl? That was all Demiurge needed to realize who Caspian was talking about, and for the first time his smile came from the heart. I once used the word unfathomable to describe Ain Sama. Indeed, that is the case. Ain Sama has prepared an excellent pawn for me. Her existence has cut years off my plan. Caspian had the feeling that Demiurge's eyes, he could not tell exactly where he was looking, had suddenly moved. They seemed to be looking at the wall. And over there is, on that topic, Caspian remembered that it was the main gate of the capital. Well, he had said he wanted to enthrall humans to his side. To think he could actually make a girl like that in such a staunchly religious country. Although, I have no idea why he said it would be fine to kill even a girl to whom he had lent a weapon. No doubt it must have been to force her into the appropriate mental state. Demiurge seemed to be in a very good mood, and he did not seem to be telling this to anyone in particular. Caspian merely waited in silence for Demiurge to turn his attention back to himself. The instruction to help that girl was truly the right answer. No, if it were Ain Sama, he would surely be able to correct anything that I did. While he did say in the past that he planned to introduce flaws into the plan to test my adaptability, to think he had laid such cunning plans, he is truly the one who united the supreme beings. Every time, he shows me how inferior I am compared to him. Cuckoo, what a cruel master he is. Demiurge seemed profoundly moved as he shook his head, and the interior of the room was silent. Finally, Demiurge adjusted his collar, as if to bleed off the last of his excitement, and then tightened his tie. Support anything Neobaraja does with everything your position affords you. Do so in the name of giving thanks to Ain Sama. That ought to further accelerate the conflict between North and South. I will soon hand you plans on what to do if someone tries to interfere with that girl. Until then, act as we have discussed. Yes. But what will become of that girl? Do you intend to make her the next Holy King? In that case, he would need to make the appropriate preparations. That said, Demiurge had said he would be giving him exact instructions, so it would be best to do as he was told. That is not a bad idea, but it would be better to give her another mission. Well, there is no telling if Ain Sama wishes to be regarded as a god. If he does intend that, then it would be better to prepare for it. The experiment of worshipping Ain Sama as a god will surely be useful in that case. Yes. Now then, is there anything else you would like to take this chance to verify? Yes. It concerns that woman who is no longer necessary, Remedio's custodio. Well, the original plan was to have her run around as needed. Would it not be better to kill her off? No, just keep her alive and let her become a scapegoat for the nobles' dissatisfaction. That was why I said she was the only one who was not to be killed during our first encounter. Transfer her to another post. Let the vice captain become the captain of the Paladin Corps, and then make use of him. He can be put to meaningful work. I understand. Deal with her when the conflict becomes evident. After Doppelkaspin showed that he understood, Demiurge indicated that the conversation was over, and vanished with greater teleportation. The demon hiding in his shadow, and the Hanzo that Caspin could never defeat, no matter what he tried, were still at his disposal. Doppelkaspin rose to his feet and looked outside the window again. Well, he could only see the courtyard. He imagined he could see the reveling people throughout the city. After that, he laughed mockingly. Enjoy the taste of happiness for a while longer, my people.